welcome, Gavin Preston. Thank you for being in conversation with me. Hyacinth Fraser from Property in Action. I'm really, really pleased that you've agreed to really have a conversation with us about three broad areas related to growth. I'm going to have a look at my notes just to offer myself a reminder. Surviving instability and how we might do that in these challenging times. Also what's needed to grow our business, and also the idea about how we can grow bigger than any problem we've got in order to deal with it. So do you want to just kick off by introducing yourself and then launch in?
Yes, absolutely. Hyacinth, thank you very much for having me in a conversation with yourself on Property in Action. My name is Gavin Preston. I'm a business growth expert, a business strategist, speaker and author, and I specialise in helping businesses between 500,000 and 5 million turnover to scale and to grow in a sustainable and a profitable way.
Okay, lovely. So can you just talk to us about what you mean by surviving instability? What are some of the things that we might be able to do in relation to that?
Yeah, this comes from the title of the book that I'm at a very far stage of writing called Survive and Thrive. And it's about, if we're going to scale and grow our business, first of all, we have to secure the platform for growth. And more pertinently or more timely than that is we've evidently got political instability at the moment. And many financial observers would say that the performance of the economy, the day-to-day business economy in the UK, follows 12 months behind the performance of the stock market in the UK. The stock market, roughly speaking, in 2018 ended pretty much where it started at the beginning of 2018, so flat. So there's an expectation by many that the 2019 world of business could be pretty flat. However, there is an expectation that for the following 2 years, 2020, 2021, and who knows for how long, there could be some shrinking in the economy. In addition to that, as we know, all economies follow a cycle, 10 or so years. We've had more than 10 years since the last economic downturn, even though we still keep using the phrase in the current economic climate, we seem to keep using that phrase, but we've actually had 10 years of growth. We're starting in some areas of the country to see some softening of property prices. We're starting to see some corporate failures. In January of last year, we had Carillion. There's a lot of talk about another big construction company into serve whether that's going to be saved or not. We've got a lot of concern going on about jobs as a result of Honda's decision to pull out, 2021 or 2022 out of Swindon. Nissan in Sunderland not building the new X-Trail model in the UK in Sunderland. Jaguar Land Rover having to look for external, outside of the UK manufacturing facilities, and then Airbus talking about removing manufacture of wings from the UK as well. So there's not to mention the financial services industry and the requirement or the need to relocate outside, whether it be Dublin, Paris or Frankfurt, i.e. outside of London. So there are a number of areas of concern. And as when we met earlier on this week, when I was speaking, one of my hobbies is sailing, and I use the analogy of sailing quite a lot in the areas of talk about, and saying that if you're out at sea and you're in the middle of an ocean and you've got the weather forecast telling you that there's a storm coming, you have to take action to do your best to preserve your vessel, to preserve your boat. And one of that might be, can you chart a different course to avoid the worst of the storm, as well as preparing the boat with its safety equipment and crew? Now, to shift that analogy back to business, what are the things that we need to do now in our business to help to protect it? And the first one of those is cash. We need to be building cash reserves.
Okay.
And the importance of cash reserves is, either 3 or ideally 6 months worth of operating costs in your business. You should be putting money to one side, say in a deposit account, so you've got that, so that if things, you've got a tightening of financing for new property projects, so you're not able to take on new property projects or sell them or move them on and make an income. You've got a contingency to keep you afloat while you work out a solution.
Have you got any thoughts on percentages in terms of how so we need to build cash reserves. So if we're doing like, I don't know, a rent property, a HMO property, have you got any ideas on any percentages that we need to be putting away on, I don't know, a monthly basis in order to build that cash reserve?
I think it comes from knowing what your month by month operating costs are of your business,
Okay.
and also personally, by the way.
Okay.
The ultimate purpose of this is to make sure that you can pay all the bills that are due, both in your business and in your personal life, and survive. And the period of and so if you know what your outflow of cash is every month, business and personally, ideally you want a buffer to be able to cover that in the worst case scenario, you were not able to get any more income over a 6-month period.
Okay.
And the number 6 comes from, it just gives you time. It gives you time to come work out a solution. There are so many people in the UK, in fact, the majority of the population of the UK and indeed the US are only one paycheck away from, financial problems. And so they need the paycheck every month in order to be able to pay all the bills that are due.
Sure.
Really good, canny business people over the last few good years have been hoarding cash. And there's a fantastic management author, a guy called Jim Collins, who wrote a number of books, but in his book called Built to Last, he studied the teams that had been most successful summiting and getting back down from Everest. And he found that the teams that were most successful were the ones that had deposited strategically at stages on the way up Everest spare oxygen. So that if they had to hunker down on the mountain while a storm came through, they had enough oxygen to survive. And then he uses from his studies, his empirical studies of businesses that have grown and stayed great and lasted over time, is they've been very, very canny about building oxygen reserves, which in the business world is cash.
Cash reserves.
Cash reserves. That enables you to either survive, or there's going to be distressed assets, distressed sellers out there, whether it be companies, whether it be fixed plant and equipment, or in the world of property, great property deals to be had, that if you're a cash buyer, you can seize on that opportunity.
Okay, so all right, build cash reserves. How else can we survive in terms of these unstable times?
Very kind of continuing the thing about cash is you need to know the numbers of your business, and you need to be all over your cash flow projections. Some people have built that out in an Excel or a an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, where they're looking at the ins and outs of the cash month by month over the next 12 months, for example, to be able to predict what that's going to be. And let's say you've got a bit of a hole in the cash flow that within the overdraft facility or the financing you're running that you expect in 3 or 6 months' time, there's going to be a problem. That gives you time. No funder, no bank likes you to ring up and say, can I have an extra 50K or an extra 100K when you need it Monday? Because they're not going. That looks like you're not managing your business. But if you go and have a conversation with a funder now, by the way, whilst there's still a receptivity and an appetite for lending, and say, I predict that by September, I've got £100,000 hole in my cash flow, then you can start to explore options. And even if the bank says no, you can go and look at Funding Circle or the private, high net worth individual networks, other funding houses, etc. So you've got time to try several routes in order to be able to solve your problem.
So a bit of forward planning, essentially, is what you're talking about.
Absolutely. The forward planning, yeah.
Okay, so you talked about what's needed to grow our business, and you mentioned something about the economic clock. Certainly when I saw you early in the week, you spoke about that. Can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, it's just building on the I've already made reference to it earlier on. It's about the economy around in the UK, but around globally follows a cycle, follows a clock. I should do it that way around because it goes clockwise, and that starts off with high property prices, and then it works around. If you just go into Google and look at the economic clock, then I'm just looking to one side just to pick up the stages. But first of all, what if you start at the top of a boom where it's a high real estate, high property prices, then you're going to get rising interest rates, falling share prices, start to see corporate failure, which we're already starting to see in the UK now in some of the spring of 2019, and we saw some of it last year. So then you see a slowdown in the economy, tighter money, which means the banks and other funding houses aren't wanting to lend as much. You see falling property prices. Then you'll get a rise in interest rates. So now we're coming back round to you get a rise in share prices, rising commodity prices, whether it be silver, gold, wheat, cocoa, whatever it might be, a rising in overseas financial reserves. Money becomes to flow a lot easier, and then we start to see a rise in real estate prices. So it follows a clock, it follows a sequence. And so, as I mentioned earlier, there are signs that are already that sequence has kind of peaked and is starting to go down again. And that's what we talk about, the economic clock.
Sure. Okay. So real opportunities there for people in the property market to get some really great deals.
Oh, for sure. There's that Warren Buffett phrase, be scared, be fearful when everybody else is greedy, and be greedy when everybody else is fearful. So if you've got cash reserves and you wait for that fall in the property prices, then there's going to be some distressed sellers and there's some deals to be had for sure.
Yeah. It's like George Soros talks about being a contrarian. It sounds like it's important to be a contrarian, looking at your example there.
Yeah, but the segue to the next thing about, growing bigger than the problem is that I believe that in every stage of an economic cycle or that economic clock, in any geographical location where you trade, in any sector, there's always a business or businesses that outperform the market. And that's a choice, because it's a choice by what's your preparation, what's your strategy like, what are you doing around cash. Critically, which we haven't made reference to, is what are you doing to keep your staff and your team engaged? Yeah, because it's going to get a bit bumpy. And what does that do to morale and the impact? And if you've got that clarity of vision where you're heading, that you tell the story in terms of there's opportunity here, rather than the story that the media will tell that the end of the world is nigh and doom and gloom. We tell a story of, right, we can do something with this. There is always a way to do something with this.
Yes.
So if we've got the attitude where we're saying, it's not, as Tony Robbins would say, it's not what happens to you in the world, it's what you do with what happens to you. So take the circumstances that are coming our way and then just plan for them.
Gavin, have you got an example, not so much a case study, but a mini example of how people are able to grow bigger than the problem that they may face? If you've got an example you can share with us.
Yeah, I think this is the whole thing about, we're often not aware of the limits that our own thinking puts on our ability. So at times we think we're at capacity, and then it's something. It's like that analogy of a stretching elastic band. Every time you stretch it, it never goes back quite up to where it was before. So I suppose one of the great examples in the having a newborn and the sleep deprivation that causes, and I remember before I became a dad for the first time, talking to other dads and saying, how on earth do you still go to work and function when you've had so little sleep? And mums that had gone back to work but were still having disturbed nights. And they were saying, I don't know, you just cope with it. I was like, well, I said, thanks for the reassurance. Is there anything I can do to prepare? Nope. Just enjoy it while you can before the birth. The reality was, you find a way. It's tough, and but you somehow still manage to perform and to deliver. You might spend, you might be going to bed at 9 o'clock on a Friday at the end of a busy working week, but you find a way of doing it. So you've stretched because you've had to. There's times in our life. Another great example is linking back to becoming a parent for the first time, is that when you've got, all of a sudden you realise, I'm going to be a parent, I've got more mouths to feed, somehow your income increases. Or that you create some financial capacity in your world in order to be able to address a reduction of, one income into the household or whatever it might be. So we're all given challenges, and I believe those challenges are there to help us to grow. There's that lovely metaphor about the caterpillar in the chrysalis, and if the caterpillar struggling to get out of the chrysalis and break out as a butterfly, if you were to sort of peel open the chrysalis to let the butterfly out, the butterfly couldn't fly, because its struggle to get itself out actually strengthens its wings so that it can fly. So with every level, there's another devil. It's like we're given challenges to be able to move to the next level, to be able to, fitness analogy is, if if you learn that if you increase your fitness so you can run a 5K, then it's a stretch to get to a 10K, then it's a stretch to get above. But our Ant Middleton from SAS Who Dares Wins would say that it's our mind will give up before our body, and the war is in your head, and it's what you can do to be able to say, I'm going to find a way through this. And I've had experiences in my life where things seem to mount up. So the analogy I gave, I was in a situation where a business relationship hadn't gone well, a personal relationship hadn't gone well, and then my dad told me that he had cancer, and that was all within a 3-month period, and I was already at pretty much of a low spot. And I remember in the moment my dad said to me, Gavin, I've got cancer. It's okay, by the way. It was all cured. But I remember in that moment thinking, wow, I was at a low. This is either going to take me out or I grow bigger than the problem. It was like, man up, Gavin, get a grip. Are you going to be a victim, or are you going to be a warrior about this? Are you going to find a way of rising or growing bigger than the problem?
So this was mindset, wasn't it, essentially?
Yeah, it was giving myself a good talking to.
Yes.
Allowing, we've all got those two voices or more in our heads. The one is the pessimist, the one that will give us a negative self-talk. The one is the inner coach. A voice that goes in your head in that kind of moment. We've all had those challenges, whether it be personal relationships, financial, business, illness in the family, whatever it might be. There's the negative voice will go, you're screwed.
Yes.
The coach will say, let's find a way.
Yes. Yes.
And I personally, and I know many others subscribe to the view that whatever happens in life happens for a reason, and that reason shall serve us. And we've got to just turn it around in our heads to be able to say, how can I learn from this? What can I do about this?
Yes, and one of the things I heard you say in the talk earlier in the week that I listened to you at, where you spoke about having a big, audacious, hairy goal and focusing on your why as a way of being successful and growing your businesses. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's really important, because when we start to feel that the weight of the world is on our shoulders and we get bogged down, it's very easy to go inward. Poor me, why is this happening to me? To get quite frustrated or even angry, and then start to question at a fundamental level, have I got what it takes to be able to sort it out? And throw your own pity party. A lot of people do that in periods of change or periods of real challenge. But the solution when we go inward and throw our own pity party is to actually switch it around and look outward. Now, we'll do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. What is a bigger why in your business and a purpose? Get yourself away from the immediate financial or personal or health challenges to look forward to what's the bigger goal for the business. A 20, the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, is another Jim Collins phrase. And he talks about what's your 20, 30-year-old goal for your company or for you that actually might not be achieved within your lifespan at that company or within your business or within your lifetime, but it can direct all of your attention towards making a bigger difference, because that becomes compelling and pulls you towards it.
So then you switch your focus onto what you can do rather than what you can't do. And
it's also about who you're then serving, because it doesn't then become about you. It's about how can I help achieve the results. That idea, that phrase that you can have whatever you want. I think it was Zig Ziglar quote. What you can have whatever you want in life by helping more people get what they want in life.
Yes.
So you switch it from poor me to how can I serve? How can I make a difference? How can I achieve a bigger goal? And that might just be simple as delivering a better service to our customers to enable them to deliver a better service to their customers. But the point is, by shifting the focus outwards in a purposeful direction, you start taking the steps that ultimately solve your own problem.
Oh, fantastic. Gavin, I know that you offer a 3-hour workshop, you offer a number of different services. Can you just talk to us about how people can make contact with you, what services you're offering to people, how you can help people?
Yeah, certainly. So my website is gavinpreston.com. gavinpreston.com. You can check me out again on Twitter, on LinkedIn, the same thing. Facebook page is Gavin Preston Growth Strategies. Gavin Preston Growth Strategies. Next month in April 2019, I'm going to be launching a brand new podcast called the Business Mastermind. So look out for that. And also later on in the year, my book Survive and Thrive will be published, and these are the strategies to be able to weatherproof your business for any incoming economic kind of turbulence or storm, and then how you can then scale and grow off the back of that. And I absolutely love getting up on my feet and speaking and sharing these insights from the work I've done over 2 decades in SME, but also in large corporate, to help individuals, teams and organizations to scale and grow.
Gavin, thank you so much. So hopefully people will like and share this video and make contact with you. Thank you.
That's great. Oh, by the way, another reference is my YouTube channel, which is Gavin Preston and the new number 1. So there's a lot of content on the YouTube channel, which is Gavin Preston and then 1.
Lovely. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.